Welcome to the WPL Book Drop Podcast. I'm your host, Becky Miller, Circulation and Marketing Assistant, graduate student at the University of Iowa, fan of audiobooks, and spoiler of pets. Joining us today is Kent Shankle, Director of the Waterloo Center for the Arts. Kent was a square dancer and local disco dance champion in his long-lost youth, and he once lived in a house made out of a roller coaster. Interestingly, Kent has touched all of the members of the Village People, but did not touch a tiger when he was given the opportunity.
Which I greatly regret to this day.
Yeah, you'll have to tell us a little bit more about that now.
Actually, I was, the Village People. I went to a concert, and having grown up in the 70s, I still kind of envisioned a Village People concert as it probably would have been then, but went to see them at Meskwaki Casino, and the crowd was largely those that knew the Village People through YMCA at wedding dances, and I was probably the youngest person there, but I did have the chance to go up to the stage and made sure that I slapped hands with all of them. As far as the tiger goes, I was attending a museum conference, and one of the activities was a visit to a zoo, which is a museum of animals. And one of the special things we got to do was we filed past a tiger that was undergoing some dental work. So it had been tranquilized, it was sedated, and it was just lying there, just on the other side of one of those tensor belt barriers. And we were told not to touch it, but it looked so soft, and in that moment I really did have the proverbial angel and devil on my shoulders. When the devil was telling me to touch it, the angel was saying, don't do it, and I listened to the angel, but like I say, I still kind of regret that I didn't go for it.
Who knows what would have happened if you went for it, though. Those people would have said, hey, you're not supposed to do that.
The worst that probably could have happened was I would have been ejected from the zoo, but
yeah.
I would have known what tiger fur felt like.
Probably very soft.
On a living tiger. I think I've gotten to probably,
Oh no.
the rug version I've experienced.
Oh no. Okay, well, thank you for joining us, Ken.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So the reason that we have you on today is to talk about the Waterloo Center for the Arts. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do there?
Absolutely. I oversee a wide range of cultural programs and facilities for the city of Waterloo. I have a great staff. Our facilities include, obviously, the Waterloo Center for the Arts, which also features the Hope Martin Theater, which is the theater operated by Waterloo Community Playhouse and Blackhawk Children's Theater. In addition, our facility includes, as one might suspect, art galleries. We have lots of banquet and meeting rooms, so we're kind of a cultural meeting place. And we also have art studios where we have classes and people come and work on their individual art work. Our Phelps Youth Pavilion is an award-winning children's museum that's located within our larger facility. A more recent addition, a little more than 10 years ago, was the River Loop Amphitheater, which we help program and manage. And that's a beautiful outdoor venue overlooking the Cedar River, and it's the ideal location where we present a series of wonderful free summer concerts, the River Loop Rhythms series, and also Cinema on the Cedar, our free family movie series throughout the summer. People might also be surprised to know that we manage the River Loop Expo Plaza, which is the site of the farmers market every Saturday. And also, surprisingly, we manage the boathouse that's located in near the Ball Diamond along the banks of the Cedar River, which is a wonderful meeting and gathering place as well. Our programs include, again, as one might suspect, a wide range of art exhibitions, which feature everything from things from our collection to works by local and regional artists. We have classes and workshops, artist residencies, as I mentioned, concerts and performances. We are involved with and put on a number of festivals throughout the year. I have another one of those coming up soon as well. And then also one of the things that we're really heavily involved with and really enjoy being a part of our program mix is public art and outreach. Things that art in unexpected places outside of our walls, and providing children and family activities out at many of the local events.
Wow. I mean, you just have so much going on there. I mean, from the number of like areas that you manage, like the expo and the boathouse and then the Phelps Pavilion and everything, that's just incredible. How do you keep track of it all?
Well, as I said, fortunately I have a really great staff, and I think we thrive on being able to really serve the community. It's what makes it worthwhile. It is our mission, it's our passion, and we don't aspire to be a building that's quiet with paintings hanging on the walls. We want noise, we want activity, we want people really connecting and engaging. It was a little bit strange through the pandemic when it was quieter than usual. As you can imagine, when you have a children's museum within your walls, you're not used to it being quiet. So for a while it was very, very quiet, and I remember the first time after being closed for a while that we had a family come in and a child pitch a fit, that it was really disorienting it was kind of a flashback.
It's like, oh, these are the old days.
Yes.
Wow. So can you tell us a little bit about the events that you have coming up, or some of those activities you mentioned?
Absolutely. We are in the midst of our fall to winter class season. We have a life drawing workshop series, so each month on the fourth Wednesday of the month, we have a live model that comes in, which a lot of people don't have the opportunity to hire their own model, and so those opportunities are a little bit few and far between. So we provide that. People can purchase beverages and draw from the model, and then kind of critique one another, share what they're working on, and so forth. Other popular programs, ceramics is very, very popular, and we've added fused glass as well.
What is fused glass?
Fused glass is glass that is fired in a kiln so that it kind of slumps or melts and fuses, pieces can fuse together, and it's often used to make platters and bowls, very often for jewelry or ornaments. In fact, we've got a couple workshops coming up, one to make jewelry and one to make holiday, actually a whole series of workshops where people can make ornaments, holiday ornaments, using the fused glass medium. One of the things we're super excited about, we've been kind of tearing our hair out with it for about the last month, but we finally have things, I think most of the bugs worked out. We've rolled out online registration. Previously people had to mail in registration or call in or come in. Now people can do that from the comfort of their own homes, on their computer or on their smartphone, and just immediately sign up and take care of that, and browse through the classes. And just in the last 2 weeks, we've had 45 people take advantage of that just since rolling that out. So we're really excited to be able to make it easier for our public to participate. Obviously, always the Phelps Youth Pavilion is a great place to visit. We are open and operating, and we're trying to do that safely, so we do have a limit in terms of the number of people that we will admit at any given time. It's limited to 50 persons. And we have some, instead of being open on a come and go basis, we have 2 shifts per day, from 10 until 12 and from 12 until 2. That's Wednesday through Saturday, and then we're also open on Sundays 2 to 4. That way we can change out all of the items that people handle in between, and do enhanced sanitation in between sessions. Also in the Youth Pavilion we have birthday parties, and we have a new program for Youth Pavilion admissions. It's called Museums for All, and that's a program that's also other area museums are also participating in that program as well, including the Grout and the Wrestling Museum and the Arboretum. And anyone that has an electronic benefit card qualifies for reduced admission, and so it's only $2 for those people to enjoy the Phelps Youth Pavilion. And then a big event that's coming up, as I said, festivals aren't over yet. We've got an indoor festival taking place on November 13th and 14th, and that's our Holiday Arts Festival. Every year we bring in some of the finest Midwest artists in a wide variety of media just in time before Christmas to start out your Christmas shopping season. Buy unique, one-of-a-kind gifts, jewelry, weaving, painting, all kinds of art media. And this year we will have about 40 artists. We've cut that back just a little bit so that we can space things out, but it's free and open to the public. Masks are required, so we invite people to come down for that mid-November.
Okay. So another reason that we have you on the podcast is to talk about the reconstruction happening at the Center for the Arts. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know that the fountain has been taken out. Is that right?
That it has. And construction is something that I suspect you know a little bit about as well.
Yes.
Because we're just around the corner from one another. So obviously you're impacted as well by the road construction. We're in the throes of multiple projects, one of which is the Commercial Street reconstruction, which is they're replacing and doing streetscaping from West First Street on over to West Park Avenue. So that runs in front of the Art Center, past Single Speed, and in front of the library. It's pain before the gain, and it's going to be beautiful when it's done. It will include new paving, as well as new sidewalk treatments and new lighting and new plantings and so forth. And so it will connect all of the various venues and so forth with nice, pleasant walkways and so forth. So we're excited about that, and we're excited that it's expected to be completed by mid to late November. So we're looking forward to that. And then more directly at the Art Center, we are doing a lot of work. We host over 1,750 events every year, and on a given day we may have up to 13 events going on. So obviously that requires a lot of parking. And it's also exciting that in our area there's been so much growth and development, including the Sportsplex and Young Arena and Single Speed and the new Art Block and all the things that happen at the library as well. So parking, while we have quite a bit of parking, we always need and could use more to be as convenient of a place for people as possible. So we have a 3-phase project that we're in the midst of to expand parking capacity for both our venue and others as well. And so we're expanding and resurfacing our parking lots. And that's in addition to fairly recently completed projects that also increased parking. The lot across Commercial from us was expanded and resurfaced, and then the Sportsplex, when their parking lot was originally striped, the spaces were unusually wide, and they restriped that, and those two things netted an increase of dozens of additional spaces. We're adding to that by expanding our parking lot, which will add more than 150 additional spaces. So again, right now it's a little inconvenient, but once it's done, it's going to be very, very beneficial. And not only will we have more parking, you mentioned the fountain, which everybody loves a fountain, and we loved our fountain. However, it was very cost prohibitive in terms of maintenance. And also what we found was its location actually served as a barrier for people. It was located right between our parking lot and our entrance. So people would come and park, and they would have to go around this mound to get to our building or to even see the entrance. So it really hid our entrance. So while we're sad to lose it, we will have a beautiful new plaza, which will be very, very accessible to all, very handicap accessible. And in addition to that, it allows us to add something that we've long wanted to do and establish a musical instrument park outdoors near our entrance so that we can bring that interactive educational experience that we provide on the inside with our Phelps Youth Pavilion to the outside, where it will be available to people free and on a 24-hour basis.
So what is this musical instrument park? What is that?
What it is it's basically kind of playground equipment, but it is they're musical instruments, so they're very self-contained and weather resistant, and they are actual musical instruments, and they are tuned. They can be played by an orchestra. So there's chimes, there's like xylophone type instruments, there's drums of various types and so forth. It's something that we don't have in our area, and I think it'd be great to add a new experience in a recreational activity for kids and families.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you know how many instruments will be out there?
It's somewhere between 5 and 7.
Wow, that'll be really fun.
We are definitely looking forward to it. We think so.
Can you share a story with us that illustrates some of the things that the Waterloo Center for the Arts does?
Well, I don't know if it's so much of a story, but one of the things that we've done recently that's been really fun to get feedback on, and that you may be familiar with, is our Musical Masterpieces project, where we provided artists with pianos, and they were pianos that people had donated to the center, that their lifestyle had changed or whatever, and they no longer needed them. And so we had artists transform them into works of art, and then we identified host sites in the downtown area where they could be displayed in public places, out on the sidewalks in downtown, particularly along 4th Street, so that passerbys could just enjoy looking at them or stop and play them. And one of those is located in front of the library. And as I was coming in this morning, I loved to see the activity that you all developed around that, with some sheet music on the piano and some instructions for playing some simple songs and so forth. But it's been really fun to have those out on the streets and get the feedback and hear about people that made sure they went to every single piano to play them all, and the reports on how out of tune they are, or not. And then hearing about people that have done impromptu concerts for others on the street, or where there's a piano that's across the street from another, where people do like a dueling piano sort of thing. So they've kind of taken on a life of their own. So like I say, that's kind of fun to hear about. Some other things that kind of illustrate what we do, things that kind of have a very public face, include this summer we did worked on a project in conjunction with the University of Iowa to do some large-scale murals along Washington Street. So between West 5th and 7th, I believe, 2 buildings that each occupy probably at least about half of a block, the side facing Washington Street and the highway corridor there, they were just kind of blank, plain, drab buildings, and we brought in an artist who transformed those, covering them with plant life themed pieces. And in fact, her inspiration was the idea of Waterloo as a dynamic place that's growing and transforming and changing, a fertile place for change. That is a location that has seen lots of change over the years, transformation, urban renewal, and it's on the cusp of a lot more. And one of her first experiences coming to Iowa was experiencing a goldenrod field for the first time, and she kind of in her head equated those things, and so she wanted to bring some of that and the idea of pollination to that project. And just a couple other ways we're kind of putting art out there, that is we've got outdoor art scavenger hunt for tree faces. There's ceramic faces that our staff made and put on trees out at Camp Ingowanas. And there's online, you can check online and get a scavenger hunt checklist, and you have to identify the different trees and find the faces along the paths there. And we've got another one that will be coming up in December, a wild bird scavenger hunt around Greenbelt Lake on the trails there for people to participate in. So it's just those kinds of projects. We just really enjoy the way people can kind of interact with them kind of on their own terms, and we love hearing the feedback from people that enjoy them.
That's great. What would you say you are most proud of in your time at the Center of the Arts?
I'm not taking personal responsibility for this, so I'm not personally proud of it, but I am really, really proud of our community and the fact that they've invested in outstanding arts facilities, collections, and programs. We can do all that we do, but we can only do it because the community supports it and has provided the facilities to do so. And through my job, I've had the opportunity to travel to lots of other communities and to museum conferences and so forth. And this is unique. Most places do not, particularly communities of our size, don't have the kinds of facilities and programs that we have available to us. And I'm thankful for that. And I also am proud that our community and the history of our institution of being committed to youth cultural education. And I think that really kind of impacts people in a lifelong way. And that we have a history of being committed to serving all. And that's, I think, kind of very much evidenced by our Junior Art Gallery program, which has grown into our Phelps Youth Pavilion. And I don't know how many people know the story behind that, but that program was started in response to the race rioting in the late 1960s when the schools were integrated. And there were these riots, and the city and their arts and recreational programs consulted with the schools and tried to come up with strategies for healing the community and moving on from that. And the program that developed out of that was cultural explorations in the Junior Art Gallery, where each year, sometimes 2 times a year, an immersive cultural exhibition would be created for kids each year based on different cultural themes, and kids from 2 different schools on typically 2 different sides of town would be brought together, and together they would learn about a different culture and have a hands-on activity. And in the process, hopefully, they would learn to respect other cultures and one another. And so we did lots of fun things, and it first started with these exhibits in the basement. And when I think back, it's what we offered seems kind of, in my mind, maybe a little bit undramatic. We would have these like a plane or a boat ride that would be part of the experience, and basically it was like a box hooked up to a garage door opener, and we'd push a button and it would pull the kids down the hallway. And I mean, you would have thought you sent them to the moon. It doesn't maybe hold up to Disneyland, but it seemed like it did to them at the time. And it's really rewarding to hear people that come back, grown-ups, and come back and like recount their memories of going there and how memorable it was for them and the impact that it made on them, and how they want that for their kids as well. We've come a long way since then. We've moved up to the main level, and we've become an arts-based children's museum, a full-fledged children's museum. And when we built and opened the Youth Pavilion, which opened in 2008, we worked with some museum consultants on that. And at the time, they did some research, and at least then, we were the only arts-based children's museum in the country. Lots of children's museums have an art component or an art area, but ours is totally based on arts and cultural themes. And so, as I say, I can't take credit or for that program, and I certainly have to recognize the people that whose vision it was even to create the Phelps Youth Pavilion. But I was lucky enough to get to work with our education director at the time, Bonnie Wininger, who was an incredible creative person, and that we were able to work together with the interactive group to design the original exhibitions and experiences in the Phelps Youth Pavilion, which the consultants were used to dealing with clients who wanted like a visitor center or something, and so they were going to them to plan basically start to finish everything. But we knew we wanted the lessons that we wanted to teach, and we've been doing exhibits for years, so we really worked in partnership with them to identify what are those lessons that we want to teach, what are the connections that we want to make to our collection, and we have to be kids and say, okay, if I had to learn about this, what would I want to do? I can dream. We have money, and we have technology assistance and so forth. So that was just a really exciting and fun time to be able to develop that, and it's been so rewarding to see so many kids and families come and get to enjoy that.
I have to tell you, I remember going into the Center for the Arts basement and taking that little ride. It was so cool. I remember my classmates loved it, and we learned so much. And we did this multiple years, so that was just a great program and definitely very memorable. I'm glad that you talked about that. Before we wrap up, we each brought some books that we want to talk about, and I'll start with mine. It is The Art of Making Memories: How to Create and Remember Happy Moments, and that's by Meek Wicking. I read this a couple of years ago. It's nonfiction. It's pretty light. The reason that I brought it today, of course, it's got art in the title, but I think it fits. I think it fits really well with some of the things that you've been talking about. It just talks about how we have a tendency to get into our lives where we're just working, and then we're going home, maybe watching some TV, and then we wake up and we do the same thing day after day. And if you find your time is slipping away and you don't really have anything to remember that you did, and like maybe the last year, especially with COVID, time can slip away. And the argument of this book is that the whole thing that you really want to do is make memories, because that's what helps differentiate that. And so some of the tips that they have are to engage in novel and extraordinary experiences, try to engage in multi-sensory experiences, pay attention to what you're doing, make it meaningful, so maybe bring a friend or someone you love there, emotional experiences, experiences of peak and struggle. Of course, we have those in our daily lives sometimes, but if you're working towards a goal, or just storytelling. So I think this fits really well with the Center for the Arts and the idea of making a memory. Maybe it's a pottery class that you go to, or ceramics, or the fused glass. If you take someone with you, you can make that memory and it sticks with you, and that just kind of makes your quality of life better. And that's why I enjoyed this book, so I recommend it. And then I recommend going to the Center for the Arts to make some of those memories.
You mentioned making memories and so forth, and one of the things that I've found and had to come to embrace as a person who likes everything to go well, and make sure that you've done everything to plan things properly. Sometimes when things don't go the way you planned, that can be stressful. And but what I found in looking back, some of my favorite memories are when things didn't go as planned. So maybe being open to that also is a way to make good memories, to let things happen and embrace those.
Yeah, we have to kind of learn from some of the things that happen.
But at the Art Center, we do try to plan things well and make sure that they go well and smoothly. So a couple of the books that I brought do relate to the Art Center and the arts, and particularly our collections. They're books that I've read in part to learn more about the collections, and they're both biographies. The first is Mama Lola, a voodoo priestess in Brooklyn. And this was written by a scholar, Karen McCarthy Brown, and she befriended a Haitian woman in Brooklyn, New York, who was an immigrant there, who was a voodoo priestess, who was known as a mambo, who had her temple there in Brooklyn, and she was ministering to the Haitian community there. So it's a biography, so it's really engaging reading, learning about this woman and her struggles, her role in terms of a leader in her community, and her struggles to raise a family and being an immigrant, having to go back and forth between Haiti. And it's interspersed with a lot of detail about the religion and the ceremonies and the healing practices and so forth. And I loved this book, and I learned so much from it, and it's super enjoyable, so I would really recommend it. I would say that I appreciate it even more because in the 90s we had the opportunity to bring the author as well as Mama Lola, the voodoo priestess, to Waterloo. And so she came and she sang some of the songs that she would sing in ceremonies and so forth. And so we had the opportunity to meet them, which provided even more appreciation for the book. But you don't need that. You'll still enjoy it and learn a lot as well. So I would definitely recommend that. And then also Grant Wood, A Life by R. Tripp Evans, which is a biography of Iowa's most famous artist, Grant Wood. And as I said, there's collections to both. There's ties to both our collections. To our collections, we have the largest public collection of Haitian art in the whole world at the Waterloo Center for the Arts. Another thing I'm proud of, as well as a great collection of work by Grant Wood. And this book was thoroughly enjoyable to me, particularly as someone who grew up in Iowa in the 60s and 70s. I don't know if it's so much the case today, but Grant Wood was kind of a cultural icon and hero that was well known at the time. Our calendars and our phone books would have Grant Wood paintings reproduced on them and so forth. So I grew up with that, kind of being the ideal of Iowa. But Grant Wood was a really interesting character, person, and one that had a lot of contradictions. And this book really goes deep and explores, who he was and those contradictions, what the family dynamic was. He had a very stern father who didn't really necessarily value art and him pursuing that. He was a farmer, and that was what you did your work and so forth. His mother was more permissive and supportive of that at any rate. And Grant Wood had a very close relationship with his mother and his sister, and for many years they lived in a very small studio apartment where they did everything in their daily life in addition to making art and hosting parties and theatrical productions and so forth. And it was so small that the kitchen dining room table had to fold up. So it's very well designed, and it was designed by Grant Wood. So and that's still located in Cedar Rapids, so people can visit that. But again, Grant Wood, an Iowa icon, and we're so blessed to have the lion's share of Grant Wood's art in our area, not in Waterloo, but also great collections in Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and Dubuque and Davenport. You can see the lion's share of his work, life's work, here locally. And as I said, we have a great collection of his work at the Center for the Arts. Another thing that I'm proud of is that, and the fact that in 1995 when I started, I think we had 9 of his original lithographs, and we embarked on a campaign to get the full set of 19, which is fairly rare for any institution, which we have successfully done. And we've expanded that collection to include the other 2 major regionalist masters, works by Thomas Hart Benton and John Stewart Curry. So learn about some background into both of those collections, and then come and see us.
Wow. I knew about the Haitian art collection. I did not know about the Grant Wood collection. That is really cool.
It is very cool. And yeah, the Grant Wood is definitely an idol of mine. So we have 2 very two very diverse collections among many others.
Wow. And can you come and see those like anytime? Are they mostly always on display?
We always have one gallery that's dedicated to Haitian and Caribbean art, so that's always on view. We do currently have many of the works from our Grantwood collection on view, and we try to have those on view at most times. Occasionally there are points where we have so many other exhibits scheduled that we're not able to show those, but because they're so important and unique to our area cultural heritage, we try to have those on view as much as possible, so when people stop in, they can experience both of those collections.
Okay. When would be a good time to stop in if you're listening and you're thinking, I might want to go make a memory and see some of this artwork? When should they stop in at the Center for the Arts?
Our galleries are free and open to the public, and we are open Tuesdays through Saturdays. The galleries are open 10 until 5, and then on Sundays they're also open 1 until 4.
Okay. Well, Kent, thank you so much for joining us today on the WPL Book Drop podcast. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
If you liked today's episode, be sure to leave a rating and subscribe. Thank you.